Hey people of the VC, it's Andy Cloudy Milder. Today I heard the sad news of the passing of Milo Zivanovic, who was one of the founding members and the lead guitarist of Slammer. I've been really getting into the UK thrash metal scene over the last 18 months or so and picking up as many different albums as I can, whether on vinyl or CD. And Slammer is one of those bands where they really clicked with me, and I was very keen to pick up as much stuff as I could. Um, I've been thinking about doing more of a series on UK thrash metal, and just haven't got round to pulling the trigger on that. And I thought today would be a good time to really start and do a bit of a spotlight on Slammer in tribute of Milo. So Slammer, they're from Bradford in the UK, which is in the county of sort of West Yorkshire. They formed in around 1986, and from what I've been able to find out is one of the big catalysts that really made them want to become a thrash metal band was seeing Metallica on the Master of Puppets tour when they were supported by Anthrax. So that would have been around 86, 87 time in the UK, and they were one of the lucky ones. They had a little bit of a fast path to success. Plenty of hard work, no doubt, went into it, but they were one of the only UK thrash metal bands to sign straight to a major label. They went into WEA, which is a Warner Brothers group, I believe, and they were destined for great success, but it never really happened to them. They ended up only releasing two albums and a couple of EPs, and I've managed to get my hands on those. So I thought I would show them today, as I say, in tribute to Mr. Zivanovic. So the first album that Slammer released was the work of Idle Hands in 1989. Now, clearly there's a massive Bay Area thrash influence on this album. The vocalist Paul Tunnicliffe, this guy here, he has he undeniably sounds a lot like James Hetfield. I don't think necessarily he is trying to sound like him, but he just has that similar kind of voice. But the music as well is very Metallica-like from that era. But this is such a great thrash metal album in its own right. I think it has a lot of detractors because it sounds so American, Bay Area sound to it, and not maybe like a lot of UK thrash metal bands did at the time. But this is what these guys know. The unfortunate thing here is this is Milo here on the end, and by all accounts, the WEA they're not a label. They're not a label renowned for metal, and a lot of UK thrash metal bands were picked up on labels, I think, as a bit of a token gesture to tick the box to say that they had one, and they never really got the support. Certainly, Slammer, with releasing this album, WA didn't really have any other bands that they could really pair them with for touring. So Slammer had to go on tour with bands like Queensryche or Yngwie Malmsteen as well. And as great as those artists are, pairing them with a thrash metal band and expecting the audience to completely click with them, it's just never going to happen. But this album came out in 1989 and is heavily influenced by Metallica, but it is an absolutely superb album. There are 9 tracks on here. My favourites from here would be God's Prey, and Hellbound actually has it really sounds like it lends a lot to Disposable Heroes by Metallica. But as I say, it's not. I hate. I don't want to. I'm not going to call them a Metallica clone. They are not, because they are a really accomplished musicians and a great band in their own right. But this is 1989, and thrash metal doesn't have much longer to live after this, certainly for a band setting out. Now, Slammer signed a 6-album deal with WEA, but soon after this was released, within a year of signing it, they were out on their ear, and obviously not making the instant money that WEA wanted. and they were pushed out and had to fend for themselves in the bad, wicked world of heavy metal. So this is the original inner that comes with it. Say this is a picture of the band. Unfortunately, terrible picture there of Milo. And I mean, WA did a great job on this album. The production is absolutely superb. They've got custom labels. They've got a printed inner sleeve. You know, they were really lucky. There's a lot of other UK thrash bands that just didn't get the push that Slammer did. But as I say, Slammer soon find themselves out on their arse. One of the releases that they did do with WEA is this 10-inch single. It's black on black writing on a black background, so difficult to see. A little like the Metallica Black album, although this is 1989 as well. And this 10-inch single is a 4-track EP, custom label on one side and track list on the other side, and it comprises of side 1 is Born for War, which is a non-album track, and Hellbound, which is the one that sounds very Disposable Heroes like, and they were recorded as part of the UK Friday Rock Show with Tommy Vance. So Tommy Vance had a session of these guys, and I vaguely remember hearing this back in the 80s, and it's certainly there's a Friday Rock Show wiki that's available on the internet where you can download episodes of the Friday Rock Show. And I'm going to seek this one out and hear the tracks as they're played out in context. I think Friday Rock Show sessions normally had 4 tracks, but there's only 2 on here. And these were recorded in January 1988, produced by Harry Parker for Radio 1. On side B, we have If Thine I Offend Thee and Fight for All, which again are album tracks from the debut album that were recorded live at the Bradford Queen's Hall in December 1988. So that was a really nice one to find. This is quite difficult to find in decent condition. It has a little bit of edge wear to it, but no ring wear as such. And obviously with it being a black album, wear and tear is quite common on those type of albums. Now this came with a lovely write-up actually by where's my glasses gone? They've gone. By Al Rhodes of Kerrang, and it kind of gives a brief history of the band and talks about their meteoric rise from almost nothing to signing with a major label. And it talks about Onslaught being the only other band that in the UK that have achieved a similar feat. But then again, it also talks about their struggles with having to tour with the likes of Queensryche and Yngwie Malmsteen, but the tour they did with Onslaught was probably their best matched band that they actually went out with to give them some acclaim. The 10-inch also comes with this promo shot. Very nice. Now, as I say, WEA dropped them after 1 album despite having a 6-album deal. But Slammer managed to get themselves signed up to another major label, BMG, albeit through the Heavy Metal Records subsidiary of BMG. And they initially released this EP called Insanity Addicts. This is a 4-track EP. Maybe it's a 12-bit single, 4 tracks, 45 RPM. There is Milo there. Now I love this beat. Out of everything Slammer have done, the 2 albums and the 2 EPs, this to me is the best thing. It is the perfect link between the first album, which is obviously very, very Metallica sounding, US thrash metal sounding, to their follow-on album, which we'll come to in a minute. And this is somewhere in between the 2, and I really, really like this. The fact that it's only 4 tracks, it's short, it's sharp, it's a good, heavy metal thrash kick in the teeth. This one is definitely worth checking out. Insanity Addicts, Bring the Hammer Down, Maniac, and IOU. This was the last we would see of bass player Russell Burton. He would move on, and he would end up being replaced by Stuart Morrow. Now, Stuart Morrow was a really strong bass player, probably still is, and he gave Slammer a slightly different edge, and they went on to produce this album here, the second album, Nightmare Scenario, which is a much more mature affair from the last album, an indication of where Slammer really could have gone. As I mentioned, the bass player specifically, because the bass here is really high up in the mix. It's not, there's a funk-ish element to it, but bear in mind this was what, 1991 was their second album, and the whole funk metal scene was in full swing. This had elements of it without being a funk metal album. It's not Mordred as such, but it really, the bass playing and the mix to this really adds a lot to it. Now the production here probably isn't as good as Idle Hands, because the Heavy Metal Records, I don't think really gave them the sort of budget that WEA would have. Again, band photos on the back. There's no inner sleeve to talk about here at all. Shame there's no lyrics. I do like to sit down with an album and listen to the lyrics. But Nightmare Scenario, as I say, is an indication of where Slammer could have gone. But unfortunately, it never really worked for them either with Heavy Metal Records. And soon after this, I think infighting broke out or what have you. The sorry tale that a lot of bands run into, and it's such a shame that Slammer couldn't go on from strength to strength. Thrash metal was on the way out. Record companies didn't really, the bigger record companies didn't really want to have thrash metal on their books. They wanted the new and up and coming sound. So unfortunately for bands like Slammer, there was really nowhere for them to go. The Heavy Metal Records label. So that's it. That's my short and sweet, hopefully, tribute to Milo Zivanovic. On the off chance that anybody that knows him is watching, my condolences go out to you. Slammer are always going to be a band that I'm going to listen to, and I really appreciate their contribution to the UK thrash metal scene. Let me know in the comments below if you're familiar with any of these albums, or even why not check them out on YouTube and let me know what you think. Appreciate you watching. Have a good weekend. Thanks all.